as I'm surrounded by lots of church leaders, can I make a confession? Is that okay? I feel like you're the type of people I should make a confession to. There is one person in my church who is really hard to lead. I mean, they're obstinate, they're rude, they don't do what I tell them to do. And that person is me. I think the hardest person to lead is always ourselves. And so Leadiagrams, it starts with 13 diagrams on self-leadership, leading yourself. And then I think you can categorize Christian leadership into three main spheres: leading other people. So there are 13 diagrams in Leadiagrams about leading other people. Then you've got kind of leading projects, whether it's a building project or an outreach project. So there are 13 diagrams on leading projects. And then you've got church life. And so if you're a Christian leader who spends most of their time in the business world or the education world, all of us in some ways are called to bring our leadership gifts into church life. And so there are 13 diagrams in Leadiagrams about that. 52 diagrams, that's the idea of the book. I don't know about you, but whenever I go for any kind of study, if someone starts getting out a whiteboard and drawing, I'm like all ears, more of a visual learner. And so that's the idea of the book. So just scattered throughout these 2 days together, Andy and I are just going to share with you one diagram from each of the 4 sections. So are you ready for your first diagram of 4 that will come up over the next couple of days? When it comes to leading ourselves, there you go, sir. When it comes to leading ourselves, you could say we're a bit like fire. We need a heat source, we need a fuel source, and we need oxygen. Similarly, to lead ourselves spiritually and to grow to be more like Jesus, we need the Word taught to us, studied, memorized. We need prayer, worship, communing with God. And we also need other people. To grow spiritually, God has designed us to live in community. And often, I think we are just led in our relationships by who wants our time, rather than applying self-leadership to who we hang around with. That makes sense? And so this first diagram, let's say you are here. It encourages us to think about our relationships, not here thinking about reaching out and sharing our faith with other people, but about the relationships around us that help us grow spiritually to be more like Jesus. And I think Jesus, we see him being intentional like this, don't we? The rich young ruler, he's very happy for him to go away. When his family knock at the door asking for his time, he says, no, actually, I need to be with these people. He was intentional with who he hung around with. And so if you like, the first kind of set of relationships to think about are fathers and mothers. People in your life that when you're around them, you grow spiritually predominantly. Yes, they will learn from you too, but you grow when you're around them. It's not always just being taught stuff, it's stuff you catch from them, how they treat their spouse, how they lead their children, how they are full of integrity. When you're around these people, you predominantly are growing. They're ahead of you, at least in some aspects of the Christian walk. Then you also have your friends. People, when you're around them, both of you are growing. It's as iron sharpens iron. You're both kind of maturing in the Lord. You're sparking off on each other. You're challenging each other. You're confronting each other in love. And those people who speak into your life, who tell you the truth, sometimes brutally, but because they love you and they're your friends. And then we also have followers. People, when we're around them, it's predominantly them that are doing the growing. Again, we will grow if you like, but we are being fathers or mothers to those followers. I think when I hit burnout quite a few years ago now, I think I realized that actually I was spending lots of time here, but not a lot of time here. And 2 other relationships now that we try and put intentionally a bit further away. So you've got folk. They may be lovely people, But the reality is they're just not that interested in growing more with Jesus. They've plateaued and aren't hungry for him anymore. And then you've got foes, people who actively want to discourage your growth in the Lord. And I think we see the Apostle Paul having these friendships, relationships in his life. We see Barnabas, I think, was a bit of a father figure to him. We see Priscilla and Aquila, Paul, drawing on them, being encouraged by them. And then obviously Paul had many followers, but Timothy and Titus especially, he would call them sons in the Lord. And then you've got John Mark folk, Paul was on this apostolic journey and he said, John Mark, he kind of deserted me, so I think he's not really the one I want on my team anymore. And then you've got foes. I think Paul's worst foe was it's Alexandra, the metal worker, who did me a great deal of harm. I've always thought that just sounds very painful. But hopefully a little diagram that blesses you.